seconds, 30.
Good evening. This is the special school board meeting for May 27th, 2014, and it is now in session. Pam, roll call, please.
Ms. Henderson?
Here.
Ms. Nisi?
Here.
Dr. Krupp? Here. Dr. Murray?
Here.
And Mr. Ziegler?
Here.
Oh, we got through that. This evening, we have two students from Southwest Middle School to assist us with the opening exercises. Madison Roker, 7th grade, will read the invocation, and Chase Crowley, 8th grade, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Follow Your Dream by Amanda Bradley. Follow your dream. Take one step at a time and don't settle for less. Just continue to climb. Follow your dream. If you stumble, don't stop and lose sight of your goal. Press to the top. For only on top can we see the whole view. Can we see what we've done and what we can do? Can we then have a vision to seek something new? Press on and follow your dream.
Thank you, Madison. Stay up there and we'll be asking you some more questions. Well, no, we'll let him go first,
Okay.
but don't sit down.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Chase, so could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm an 8th grade student at Southwest Middle School. My name is Chase Crowley. I play soccer, I play basketball, and I'm involved in the youth group at my church.
Oh, very nice. Where are you going to school next year?
I'm going to school at Heritage High School.
Oh, very good. And do you have any pets?
I do. I have a dog named Brady, and he's a terrier mix named after the football player Tom Brady.
I see. And what's your favorite thing at school?
I like hanging out with my friends and learning and just like experiencing all that there is to.
And if there was one thing that you could change at your school, what would that be?
There's not much that I really would like to change in my school.
Ooh, that's good.
I think everything's well.
That's very good to hear. We like to hear that. Do you have any family members with you tonight?
I do. I have my grandma, Lynn Bender, and my father, Brian Crowley.
Could you please stand so we could recognize you? So what are you planning to, is there any subject area you like best for high school that you're looking to do something special on your way to college?
I would like to join the JROTC program because I would like to join the Air Force after high school.
Oh, awesome. Yes, and we have some of the best programs in the state right here in Brevard County. So we wish you well with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madison?
Hello, my name is Madison Recker, and I'm a 7th grader at Southwest Middle School, and I'm involved in 4-H in the Indian River County. I am involved in, of course, the Anti-Bullying Ambassadors Association at our school, and I ride horses, and that's what my pets are. I have a horse named Emma. I have 2 dogs named Rocky and Lola, and I think that's all about myself.
Do you have any clubs that you do at school?
I'm a cheerleader also in
Uh-huh.
the anti-bullying team.
I knew there was more to you. Do you have somebody here with you tonight?
Yes, my mom, Michelle Recker.
Could you please stand? So what do you like best about your school?
I love the staff and the teachers at my school and my principal.
So Cleanup is good to do. And if there was one thing that you could change at your school, what would that be?
I think my school is pretty perfect, so I don't think I'd change anything.
Wow. Well, that, I must say, I think that's a first, 2 for 2, perfect schools, just got to tell you that. Usually somebody always brings up the lunch, but we didn't hear that tonight. Well, thank you for joining us tonight, and we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Bingley.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. And Madison, I like your principal, too. I really do. Ms. Henderson and members of the board, on the published agenda, we have administrative staff recommendations, 2 recognition items, 1 presentation, 15 consent items not previously submitted for information, 9 consent items previously submitted for information, 1 action item, and 8 information items. You also have the yellow supplemental agenda, which are changes made to the agenda since being released to the public. There are additions to administrative staff recommendations, item A7, under the consent agenda. You have 1 revision, item F13, on student expulsions.
What are the wishes of the board?
To accept.
Second.
The motion was made by Dr. Krupp and seconded by Mr. Ziegler. Is there any discussion? Let's vote.
Technology is a wonderful thing.
We'll do a voice vote. Up. We've had a lot of that recently. That brings us to administrative staff recommendations. Dr. Bingley.
Well, as is customary, we get to do early in the evening and recognize some folks who are coming into some new positions to provide leadership in the district, and we want to give them the opportunity to stand up and be seen and speak up and be heard. And we're going to start first. We want to recognize James Hickey, or Jim Hickey, for his reclassification transfer from the position of principal at Vieira High School to the position of Director of Human Resource Services and Labor Relations, effective June 2nd, 2014. Congratulations, Mr. Hickey.
Thank you, Mrs. Henderson, the board, Dr. Bingley. This opportunity to go into this new assignment is one that I look forward to. I know that as I look back on my 29 years in education, I've spent all of it either as a teacher or as an administrator in the building. So to come to the district office does present new challenges, but at the same time it presents wonderful opportunities, and that's what I find most exciting about this position. So I look forward with a lot of enthusiasm to coming with you all here at the district office and working on Monday. Of course, all of that couldn't be possible without some wonderful support that I've had at Vieira High School. And in my 3 short years at Vieira High School, and I agree with the students that just spoke at the podium, I think it's a perfect school. But I'm the principal or ex-principal, and I should be able to say that. But at the same token, I'd like to thank a few folks that were very instrumental in making things very, very special at Vieira High School. My assistant principals, I'd like to start with Debbie Gwinsey, who I've had the pleasure of working with not only at Vieira, but also at Jackson Middle School. Mrs. Huffman, Vicki Huffman, who is the dean there, a 10-month assistant principal who I've had the pleasure of working with the last 3 years. Sylvia Majuskovic, who is my curriculum AP, who is my right-hand person there at Vieira High School. It's been a wonderful 3 years. Tim Rooney, who could not make it here this evening, is also one of my 10-month assistant principals, who's an extraordinary help and somebody who has been there from the beginning, who's assisted all of us because we were new 3 years ago. All of this could not be possible, though, without one perfect person in my life, my wife, who has also in education, who has dedicated her life, but also know what it's like to be married to an administrator. There are many tasks and trials and tribulations, things that go along in this business that I would like to thank her for. So it's with a lot of regret that I leave Vera High School, but at the same token, I feel like it's a great place, and I'm leaving it in good hands, and it's with a lot of enthusiasm that I'm coming to the district, so thank you.
Okay.
Indeed, congratulations, Mr. Hickey. And before we move on, we have to deal with the procedural issue where we
Actually,
messed
vote
up
you
a
in.
little bit. So, Ms. Henderson, if you want to call the question. We were so eager, we jumped in front of process.
We have the administrative staff recommendations. Is there any discussion?
Second.
All those in favor? All right. Thank you.
Oops. I didn't, Mr. Hickey, I didn't want to have that backup concern you, but I'm sorry, nonetheless.
We could have really messed with him.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, man, we could have had some fun.
Okay. We're already having too much fun. So now, let's move on. And we next want to offer our congratulations for the reclassification of Thomas Johnson, Jr. from the position of teacher on assignment at Cocoa High School to the position of dean, assistant principal 10-month at Cocoa High School, effective August 11th, 2014. Congratulations, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Henderson, Dr. Bingley. Thank the board. I want to thank Dr. Sullivan for selecting me. I want to thank my other administrators for coming out and supporting me, and I want to thank my wife. This year was very exciting, you know, and I look forward to next year as a teacher on assignment. When Clear Lake closed and went over to Cocoa High, we had a lot of challenges and everything, but I think together we were able to master most of them, or at least be successful on most of them. I look forward to this upcoming year, and again, I want to thank God and everybody else who helped me. Thank you.
And I know you know this, Mr. Johnson, but just so the board knows and anyone else, Dr. Sullivan would ordinarily be here, but there is an awards program going on at Cocoa High School even as we speak. So I do know that, and you know that, and we're very proud of you and look forward to your leadership there. And next we have the reclassification of Mira Trine from the position of Dean Assistant Principal 10-month at Jackson Middle School to the position of Assistant Principal 12-month at Jackson Middle School effective July 1, 2014. Ms. Trine, congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Bingley and members of the board. I can't tell you how excited I am to be here tonight. I am joined this evening by my amazingly supportive husband, Matthew Trine, as well as our two beautiful daughters. Stand up, girls. Mia and Melina, both of whom attend Stevenson Elementary. I would like to briefly say thank you to all of the individuals who have supported me during my career in education, including Dr. Murray, who was my college professor and gave me all A's. Thank you very much. But I would specifically really like to thank three principals who have mentored me along the way, and those principals are Dr. Sullivan, Dr. Harris, and my current principal, Mrs. Jones, who is here to support me tonight. Without them, I would not be standing here. So thank you again for this amazing opportunity.
You just give them out?
Yeah. I won't speak for Dr. Murray, but I will say I suspect she would say you earned the A's. That's what I'm sure you did. Next, we want to congratulate on the transfer of Peter Quinlan from the position of Dean Assistant Principal 10-month at Titusville High School to the position of Dean Assistant Principal 10-month at Rockledge High School effective August 11th, 2014. Mr. Quinlan here.
Just want to thank everyone and my boss here for the continued support, and look forward to the new challenge at Rockledge, and leaving a lot of good people at Titusville, and just look forward to the opportunity. Thanks.
Also this evening, we want to recognize Mark Bowen for his transfer from the position of Dean Assistant Principal 10-month at Rockledge High School to the position of Dean Assistant Principal 10-month at Titusville High School, effective August 11th, 2014.
Well, thank you, Dr. Bingley and the board. I really didn't know I was going to speak tonight. I was just told to come, so I didn't really prepare anything. But like my colleague said, I'm looking forward to the challenges there, and we already got Rockledge straight, so maybe it's time to go on and help something else. Hey, that's who I am. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. And finally, we want to recognize the transfer of Frank O'Leary from the position of Assistant Principal 10-month at Sherwood Elementary School to the position of Assistant Principal 10-month at Suntree Elementary School, also effective August 11th, 2014. Frank?
Thank you. I would like to thank the board and Dr. Bingley for this wonderful opportunity. Joining me tonight is Ms. Cindy Wilson, the principal at Sherwood Elementary, and Michelle Jane Betty, the principal at Suntree Elementary. Thank you again.
And we thank all of you for coming this evening. You know, it is not a surprise. I say it every time, but it's not a surprise that all of you who have already begun the path to administration thank somebody near and dear to you who you love for having the patience and the love and the understanding that it takes to allow us all to do the work that we do. And so on behalf of Brevard Public Schools, I say to all the folks that we honored tonight, congratulations, and we look forward to your work. And to those who came with them, thank you for all that you do.
Nope. Congratulations to everyone. That brings us to recognitions of visitors and awards.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. There are 2 recognition items on this evening's agenda. Item B8 is the recognition of the See It, Report It, Stop It anti-bullying video contest. Melissa Katakis, Director of Students at Risk and Home Education, will make the introductions. Ms. Katakis?
Good evening. Dr. Bingley, Madam Chairman, members of the board, I'm here tonight to present the Anti-Bullying Month Award. In October, to correspond with Anti-Bullying Month, Brevard Public Schools partnered with Brevard County Crime Prevention Task Force to present the first annual See It, Report It, Stop It anti-bullying video contest. At this time, it is my pleasure to welcome Sheriff Ivey and Lieutenant Scully from the Brevard County Sheriff's Office and invite them, along with Student Services Resource Teacher Paula Farrell and Janine Knight, to present the winners of the anti-bullying video contest.
The See It, Report It, Stop It contest challenged student teams from district middle and high schools to develop creative and innovative videos promoting strategies to reduce bullying in our schools. 9 student teams responded to the challenge representing the following schools: Edgewood Junior Senior High School, Heritage High School, Hoover Middle School, Jackson Middle School, Kennedy Middle School, McNair Magnet, Southwest Middle School, Space Coast Junior Senior High School, and BCSO PAL.
I don't get a script?
No script.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. I just want to start out and thank the members of the school board and Dr. Bingley and all of our teachers that not only saw the need for this program but embraced it and made sure that they had good participation in it. We see the effects of bullying every day, and you know, historically bullying was on the bus or in the playground. Today it's on the computer. It goes into the bedroom, onto the texting, everywhere else. And so it's not only important that we recognize it and bring awareness to it, but that we give the kids an outlet to be able to get help for it. And that's what this program is about. So we greatly appreciate not only the participation of the students, their parents, and also their administrators and teachers for being so involved in this and recognizing the importance of it. So I think Lieutenant Scully is going to announce our winners.
Before I announce the winners, I'd like to recognize 4 people who were absolutely instrumental in making this contest a reality, and that was Janine Knight and Paula Farrell from Brevard Public Schools. Thank you for what you did. And Corporal Tim Eckner and Nancy Baker from our Community Services team at the Sheriff's Office. Everybody at BCSO and Brevard Public Schools worked together to make this contest a reality, and without these 4 individuals, we would not have been able to make this project happen. So thank you very much. Okay, our winning videos, and we're going to call each of these winning video teams up. I'm going to announce the first, second, and third place, and then we'll call each team up individually for photographs. But first, our first place winning video was Heritage High School with an aggregate score of 66 out of 75 possible points. The team members from Heritage High School were Travis Bradley, Kiev De La Rosa, Gunnar Streckler, Adrian Thomas. And we'd like to thank Dr. John Harris and their advisor, Ms. Jackie King, for their support with this project. Congratulations, Heritage High School. Our second place video came from apparently one of the best schools in the district, Southwest Middle School, with an aggregate score of 55.5 out of 75 possible points. The team consisted of a variety of students from Southwest, led by Symphony Lindsay, Ishmael Flake, Chase Crowley, Judith Philpott, Madison Rucker, and Dylan Geiger. Principal Todd Shearer, thank you for your leadership, and their advisor, Colleen Rockstraw. Congratulations, Southwest Middle School. And our third place video was from McNair Magnet School with an aggregate score of 43 out of 75. And their team was led by Andrew Denick, Margaret Jennings, Sterling Jenkins, Peter Carmaker. And we'd like to recognize their principal, Rosette Lipscomb Brown. Ms. Brown, thank you for your leadership. And their SRO, their advisor, Officer John Ackerman of the Rockledge Police Department. Congratulations to the McNair team. I can tell you that judging these videos was very, very difficult. All of the videos were excellent. The creativity that our students came up with was truly amazing. So what we'd like to do is actually show you the winning video at this point. First place winning video from Heritage High School.
I saw it.
I saw it.
I saw it. I reported it.
I reported it.
I reported it.
I reported it.
I stopped it.
I stopped it.
I've stopped it.
I stopped it.
Wow.
On behalf of the Brevard County Crime Prevention Task Force, at this point, Sheriff Ivey, Dr. Bingley, and Ms. Henderson, we'd like to invite you down to award each of the winning teams with a check. We have the Heritage High School team. Please come forward.
You guys come on over here. Lieutenant, how much is that for? 500? Can you guys not deposit that until like December?
Step up on top.
Go, scoot in, tighten up. Come on, take control. Come on, Wayne, take control.
Take control.
I can have Lindsay take control of that.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Southwest Middle School.
Anybody else?
And the team from McNair, please.
Ackerman, you want to stand by me?
On behalf of the Brevard County Crime Prevention Task Force, we'd like to congratulate our winning teams and thank all of the students and faculty advisors that participated throughout the district. We look forward to our 2015 contest, and we hope you do as well. Thank you.
Well, we certainly thank the BCSO for their involvement in this important program. And Dr. Harris, I assume that the effort was just to make sure that every day is a great day. There you go. I tried to set you up for that one.
Okay, where are we?
Next, item B9 is the Relay for Life Board recognition. Brevard Public Schools has been a longtime partner and supporter of the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life events. At this time, Rick Morton, Systems Analyst with Human Resources, will come forward to make the introductions. Mr. Morton?
Thank you, Dr. Bingley, Madam Chairman and Board. This is a little different from normal. I normally come before you seeking your support of Relay for Life. But tonight we're going to do this just a little bit different, and we're going to show you what a wonderful family we have here at Brevard Schools. We have a great group of support, and here to introduce this item, we have Dr. Lana Saul, the chairman of the American Cancer Society Volunteer Leadership Council, and Michelle Mason, a Relay for Life specialist with the American Cancer Society.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Mason. I am one of the Relay for Life specialists for the American Cancer Society. I like to say I'm one of the newest members, but joining a fantastic team. We wanted to take a few minutes of your time tonight to recognize you as a school system and thank you for all of your efforts over the last 7 years and your participation in Relay for Life. I have a few slides that I'll run through to highlight the progress, and then we have a special recognition we'd like to give you. The American Cancer Society, if you aren't familiar with what it is, it's an overnight community celebration where individuals and teams camp out and picnic, play games, take turns circling the track, a relay style, so that we can raise funds for research for cancer. It's actually the American Cancer Society's signature event with over 6,500 relays across the United States each year. This year, in 2014, the Brevard Public Schools were graciously allowed us to host 5 events, 5 Relay for Life events at your school sites. That was Bayside High School, West Shore Junior Senior High, Satellite High School, Space Coast Junior Senior High School, and then Thomas Jefferson Middle School. Among all of our relays, though, we had 12 across Brevard. There were 88 teams that were affiliated with schools. They were either a student-led team, such as the National Honor Society or the JROTC, or they were a team of teachers that participated and came together for the cause. Additionally, we just have some statistics here I thought you might like to see. From 2008 to 2014, the Brevard Public School teams, those that are affiliated, either student-led, teacher-led, or all teacher teams, have raised over $1.3 million for Relay for Life, which is a significant amount. If you're looking at the 2 graphs, you can see that you've averaged just about $200,000, and that's it's over 30% of our event goal each year that student and teacher teams have contributed to our event goal. So without all of the student teams and the teachers, we would not be as successful in Brevard as we have been for the last 7 years. These next 2 slides actually are just a few photos of our Relay for Life. All of these photos are actually of students and people that participated in the school-wide events that we hosted out of the 5. So you'll see some teams. Each relay has its theme. We do karaoke. It's led by a survivor lap and then a caregiver lap. So they each have their unique elements. The school system, I think, brings a very unique element as we get to utilize your bleachers and spell out hope and cure and light it up during our Luminaria ceremony. In closing, we'd like to thank you and students and teachers for helping us create a world with less cancer and more birthdays. Because of your support for Relay for Life, Brevard made progress in the fight against cancer. There are 3 specific people that I'd like to call out tonight. One is Kara Brooks. I don't believe she was able to join us tonight, but she's on the finance team. She sang a beautiful national anthem at the Relay for Life. Did a wonderful job and received many, many compliments on her talents. Additionally is Rick Morton. He also participates in the Relay for Life of the Vieira event. He was our top fundraiser, so special shout out to him. Last but not least, we'd like to thank Dr. Bingley for coming out to the Vieira event and opening our ceremonies with a wonderful speech and just inspiring all of our students and our teachers and all of the community participants that were there to help us relay through the night. So if Dr. Bingley and Ms. Henderson would come down, we'd like to present you with a plaque and also a certificate of appreciation.
So I have the dual benefit of being an employee of Brevard Public Schools. I get to come to work every day and inspire people for health and wellness, and I'm also the chairperson for the American Cancer Society. So in line with the mission statement for Brevard Public Schools to serve, and we thank you for all that you do for our community, and we thank you, Dr. Bingley, for bringing our schools and our community together for these great opportunities. Pose the photo up.
Sure.
We do thank you for coming, and we appreciate the recognition. We are very serious about trying to help our young people understand that in this life you do serve something greater than yourself, and we're very proud of that, and so we thank you for all that you do for our community.
Thank you, Dr. Bingley. Next. That brings us to resolutions and proclamations.
There are no proclamations on tonight's agenda.
Next is the presentation portion of tonight's agenda. Dr. Bingley?
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. There's one presentation on this evening's agenda regarding the solar energy projects in Brevard Public Schools. Laura Candico, Energy and Resource Conservation Specialist, will make the presentation. Ms. Candico?
Good evening. I am Laura Candico, and I am with Brevard Public Schools Energy Conservation Team. I'm happy to say that I'm not making the presentation. I will be introducing to you our presenters this evening, so you're up for a good show. I'm here this evening to introduce you to our solar partners, Florida Power and Light and the Florida Solar Energy Center. Both of these organizations have generously provided Brevard Public Schools with multiple solar arrays. You will be happy to know that we currently have 9 solar arrays on our campuses, including the one here at the ESF, which were built at no cost to Brevard Public Schools. Each of these 10 kilowatt arrays provides Brevard Public Schools with approximately $1,300 in electricity savings each year. In addition, our energy partners have invested time and resources to train our teachers and make the information gained from these solar arrays available to our students for class curricula as well as science projects. I'm also excited to highlight Lockmar Elementary School, which through community cooperation with participation from parents, teachers, and administrators, worked cohesively and diligently to obtain grant funding to build its own solar array to power its hydroponic greenhouse at no cost to Brevard Public Schools. We have invited each of these organizations to give you a brief presentation to describe the solar arrays that they have built, their goals for our students, and their partnership with Brevard Public Schools. Each presentation will be limited to 3 minutes for your viewing pleasure. First, I'd like to introduce Tom Kuntz, Manager of Major Accounts and Government Agencies with Florida Power and Light. I think, I don't know how to go backwards.
Okay, that's good.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you, Laura, very much. Again, my name is Tom Kuntz with FPL. I am your FPL account representative here, and you're a very important customer of mine, I might add. The solar array systems, I want to briefly touch on the fact that these arrays do generate electricity to each of the schools they're installed at. But the real focus really is on educating the students that are attending those schools and to educate really the future generations by providing these systems and all the educational materials as well. The program infrastructure is the PV systems themselves. We have solar panels, the mounting hardware, the grid inverters, as well as the other equipment that's part of the system. And also there's an online data system that I'll touch on just on the next slide that's quite important. So the output to you, the customer of this system, is really a turnkey solution, turnkey system, because we provide the PV system itself, we provide the teacher training, we provide the education materials, as well as any technical assistance in their use. So we really want to make sure that as this system is delivered, it's used by the students and it's used as a training vehicle to the students. Very good. Here's an example. We're going to cover the schools that we have installations, and I just picked the Central Middle School as an example, the first one. This particular screenshot is available not only to the students of the schools, but all the students of Brevard Public Schools, as well as the community. So they'll be able to take a look at the production from the PV system over time. So in this example, you can see that there's a total of 12,000 kilowatt hours, which is enough to power about 12 homes. And also, there's a reduction of about 11,000 pounds of CO2. So all these kind of parameters are available to everybody to take a look at. And they're updated at least daily, so you'll be able to see the information daily. Oh. I clicked it too fast.
Next.
Next one, yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Laura. Well, you're a lifesaver. These are the schools we have installations at. We've completed in 2013 Thomas Jefferson Middle, Central Middle, L.B. Johnson, the ESF campus as well that Laura mentioned, and also McNair. And then this year, 2014, Satellite High and Cocoa High will also have installations. So in conclusion, if we could, through these installations, have at least a handful of students be interested in the STEM program, science and technology and mathematics, we've really, I think, accomplished our goal. And that's really the purpose, to get students involved in technology and pursue a STEM career. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. That was wonderful and right under time limit. We love you. Our next presenter is going to be Sherry Shields, Director of Communications at the Florida Solar Energy Center. Ms. Shields? You can use the mouse and just click it, or that's fine.
So good evening. So our Solar for Schools program, and why solar on schools? Because it introduces solar technology, or specifically photovoltaic, which is solar electricity as opposed to solar thermal water heating. It generates clean electricity on site, and it offsets the electricity costs to the school, so there's savings. And then it provides an opportunity for learning in this STEM, and we want to improve the energy literacy in the schools. So a little bit of a history on our program. I just want to say that we started back in 2003, depending upon what funding we got. And a couple of sites here was Odyssey Charter in Palm Bay, FIT, and then another program that we had was a takeoff of that was in 2006, and that's where Edgewood Junior Senior High got a system, as well as the Center, Florida Solar Energy Center, got a system also. Now, our new program, the latest one that we've been working on, is the SunSmart e-Shelter program, and that was started in 2010 to 2013. That funding was provided by the ARA funding, which came from federal funding funneled to the state through the Florida Energy Office, which is a division of the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. So they then funneled the money to us, and we spearheaded then contracting out to get these solar systems installed throughout Florida. In Brevard County specifically, we have Apollo, Endeavor, Bayside, and then Eastern Florida State College all got systems. Now, what's unique about this system is this is the one at Eastern Florida State College in Cocoa Campus, is that these systems have battery backup. They're 10 kilowatt systems, but they are put on schools for emergency shelters. So they're not going to power the whole school, but just a portion of the shelter. It will allow, it's the critical loads, a few outlets and some lighting, communication. So right now, through the SunSmart e-Shelter program specifically, we have 117 schools throughout the state of Florida. That's 49 counties out of 67 in the state of Florida. So pretty good. And it was a huge collaborations with the schools, the districts, solar contractors, as well as the electric utilities statewide. Now, FSEC, we say, is Brevard's best kept secret. We are a resource for Brevard County, and we provide workshops for teachers, and with those listed there with solar car building and solar cookers and hydrogen fuel cells and such. Then we have students workshops. They come in, field trips, study groups, and we have a very small education team, about 3 people, and for K to 12. And they've already reached 1,200 students throughout this last school year. And then we partner with FPL and provide workshops to get that education into the classroom. In conjunction with that, the curriculum, we have Energy Was Olympics. This is an annual event that we have every year at the center. It's statewide. We get 600 to 1,000 participants, and we have a variety of activities. And here are the sample of the different events. And it really creates not only STEM but STEAM, because we have the artistic component in there. There's a lot of design and challenges and artistic challenges. So we're working with, as you can see, numerous utilities. And what we want to do is offer, not only just have this annual event, but we want to have regional events throughout the state so that we can reach. It's difficult for schools to come to the center. We've got from the Keys to Tallahassee coming to the center annually. And so if we can get more regional events, we get more students involved. And this year, actually, some of the Brevard County schools here, Edgewood, Lewis Carroll, Ocean Breeze, McNair, Andrew Jackson, and Merritt Island, they've participated in many of our events throughout the years. And matter of fact, this year, Hometown News, the North Brevard County, we ended up in their paper. See here, and then Lewis Carroll, believe they got for their solar energy cook-off. They did second place for the design, so they made the paper too. So we're very happy about that. So ultimately, our goals for Brevard County is that we want energy literacy for every school administrator, teacher, student, even those in facilities. We want to incorporate energy concepts into the curricula, and then we would really like to have every Brevard County school participate in Energy Was Olympics. This is our home. I mean, we're statewide, but we would really like to have 100% participation. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sherry. That was wonderful. And now I'm going to present to you Suzanne Berry from Lockmar Elementary. And she got to work with her students and staff, so she has a little video for you. I'm going to let you introduce it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our principal, Norma Hostetler, for inviting me to present our school's solar energy greenhouse project. Lockmar staff, students, and myself have collaboratively created this video presentation for you this evening.
What started as a service learning project within our GSP classes has grown from a small hydroponic garden to a full-scale solar passive tracking greenhouse. Efforts were made to engage in a collaborative triad with parents, community, and Lockmar school personnel. A plan was derived, funding was secured, layout and designs were drawn, ground was broken. Unlike older solar energy systems, solar passive tracking technology requires no motor. Rather, motion of the solar panels is induced through increasing ambient air temperatures over the course of a day. The expansion of the panels forces mobility to occur. As ambient air temperatures cool, the panels will contract and reset to their original starting position.
This learning looks like this. What happens in this setting if we look at it a little differently? Then your learning environment becomes your environment of opportunity. How? Let's think about it like this. Everything has to do with energy. The sun rays contain energy. Our solar panels collect this energy and convert it into a usable resource. Just like students, hardest information. A solar day is approximately 6 hours long for our panels. The panels average 6 kilowatts per day. That is free energy from the sun that we use to run our pumps and help our plants grow. Plants need sun, water, and nutrients to grow. Students need knowledge, engagement, and opportunity to exceed. An opportunity to exceed. An opportunity to succeed. It is, in short, a symbiotic relationship.
So how do we create this platform of opportunities? With every strong structure, you need to create a stable foundation. Ours is constructed from these 3 sources.
Possibilities, which are endless. Business, chemistry, marketing, science, physics, scientific measurement, mathematics, agriculture, research, technology.
Responsibilities, taking ownership. Careers, stewardship, partnership, school culture, cooperation.
Sustainability, self-sufficient, alternative energy, pesticide-free, organic, community needs.
What stands on this strong foundation?
Green ability. What makes all this conceivable? Solar energy.
Future goals include interdisciplinary curriculum, continuation of research and service learning, and full integration of multimedia technology.
Thank you. That was an excellent video. Very well done.
Yes, we are thankful to each of our solar partners for working with our students and our community in pursuit of clean, renewable energies. We thank you for our time and everybody's participation. Power up, everybody.
Power up. I thought that was excellent.
If I may, this is great stuff. I want to thank all our partners. This exemplifies what we need to be doing to help our students and also to help us to be more efficient. So thank you to all that presented, FPL, the Solar Energy Center, and to the schools for what they do for us. It really is a big deal in our world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Bingley?
Yeah, I certainly want to echo that. Way to go, Lockmar. And you know, I'll recognize Sandy Sanderson here, also from Florida Power and Light. He didn't come up the podium, but he's back there. And I do want to say, you know, do we love the additional energy and the whatever number of dollars it saves us? Sure we do. But I will say this, you know, FPL has been a great partner for us for a long time, and through the whole process, and you heard it from Florida Solar Energy Center and FPL, it has always been about how do we help kids learn about photovoltaic energy? How do we, you know, the mission has always been one around helping young people learn. Don't get me wrong, we love the energy and the amount that comes off our bill every month. But I do want to point out that from the start, it's always had that mission, and we really sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Bingley. Anybody else? No? Okay. That brings us to public comment. The maximum allotted time for each speaker is 3 minutes. Clarification of information presented and answers to questions specific to district business and educational matters will be posted on the school board's website under the section called For the Record. Public speaker, please speak into the microphone and state your name. I have 3 speakers tonight. First is John Pilley, second is David Kearns, and third is Vern Blanchett. Mr. Pilley.
Good evening, Madam Chairman. My name is John Pilley. I live here in Vieira. I wanted to actually touch on a couple items. First, a little over a year ago, you approved an $8 million contract for software for the administration. $5.8 million of that contract will be spent by July 30th of this year. What do we have to show for it? Are all the segments of that software up and running? If not, which ones are and which ones aren't? Good accountability requires you to let us know where that money has been spent and what we got for it. We closed schools for $800,000 savings. We deserve to know where $5.8 million went. The FCAT scores that were reported over the weekend are shocking. I don't know what the other grades will be when they come out later, in another month or so, but these grades should shock you. If everything else is going along these lines, we are no longer a premier district. Third grade, we stayed even compared to last year. We're still 7 points ahead of the state average on reading, but we're right on target with the average on math. When we go to fourth grade writing, we dropped 8 points compared to last year. And compared to the state, we are now 6 points below state average. That's not excellence. Eighth grade writing, we've dropped 4 points from last year. We are now 6 points below state average. Again, that is not excellence. 10th grade writing, we have dropped 5 points since last year. Last year, we were 5 points above state average. We are now 2 points below, a 7-point swing in 1 year. And I'll be honest with you, that comment from your communications person, while we've improved in writing, just not as measured by FCAT. If my daughter came home and said, I'm doing great in history, just not as measured by my teacher's test, that would not fly. And I'm shocked that that comment was allowed to go out. We have a half-penny sales tax initiative that's considered for this fall. People are wondering, do we have the correct leadership that can fix the problems that are now showing up in our district? We need some accountability.
Thank you. Mr. Kearns.
Visual aids tonight. Hi, my name is David Kearns. I'm a candidate for State Rep District 53 in Palm Bay. This is Milton Freeman. Essentially, those that have get. Those with a lot get more. And it seems to be what we're working off here in Brevard County in the school district. Now, this plan has worked really well in Chile, Argentina, and Guatemala. Really well if you like triple-digit inflation and strife and so forth. So I don't think it's the plan we want for Brevard County schools, but it seems to be the plan we're going by. Charter schools in 2014 PICO money from the state got $73 million that they're sharing over 570 charter schools in the state. Okay? So that's $128,070 per charter school, which is great. All the bright, new, shiny charter schools get $128,000 per. Okay, on the flip side, public traditional schools, $53 million spread over 67 districts, and that's $791,044 per county or per district. If you split that up over Brevard, we're looking at $9,888.05, which isn't enough to buy a decent roof in the city of Palm Bay, where I'm from. And that means that every charter school gets as much as one public school for upkeep. And this is wrong. This is bad. Okay, so now we come to an egregious situation that was recently reported in the news. The Northrop Grumman surcharge to schools, and I had to dig for this. I had to ask, I had to badger Florida Today's education reporter over Twitter before she finally pointed out that it was buried deep down in the stories, that this will mean $3.5 million per year forever to Northrop Grumman. So then we flip that over and we say the half-cent sales tax that we're looking for, also in Florida Today, that will generate roughly $35 million per year, which means $1.10 pays Northrop's surcharge for existing here in the county. That's according to the numbers. It's $1 in every $10 that we pay for this tax, this 1 cent sales tax, a half-cent sales tax, will be going to fill in the gap for Northrop. So, what does that mean? That means that this board is either on board completely with this program, or there needs to be some more pushback from the board to the state, and I haven't heard it. I didn't get an answer as to whether or not it was a sunshine law violation. I didn't get any answers with regard to, are we going to approach Northrop? Are we going to push back? Are we going to ask the county don't continue to take money for corporate giveaways without, I mean, I didn't hear any of this. I didn't hear any op-eds that were going out in the newspaper from members of the board protesting what had happened. So I'm wondering, either you really believe in Milton Friedman, which hasn't worked that well in Latin America, or you're on board with the destruction of public education as we know it.
Time is up.
Thank you.
Vern Blanchett.
Dr. Bingley and board members, thank you for 3 minutes. My name is Vern Blanchett. I hail from Titusville, Florida. Lived there about 20 years. Married, 6 kids. All went through the school system, but they're all out and grown now. And my education is a bachelor's in physics and math from University of Alabama and master's in science education from UT Austin. I've taught 6 years in the public schools. That was in Texas many years ago. I come to you today concerned over the security of our school classrooms, and particularly the teachers and the students both. I come to that because I hear all the time about, all around the country, shootings occurring in schools. And I wonder, what is Brevard County doing? Studies have been made in large cities to find out what the police response time is for a major event like a school shooting. And the average time of response is 8 minutes. Okay? Well, what that shows you is 911 is not going to protect your students, because you've got to have got to have the killer stopped immediately. You can't wait 8 minutes to stop him. Most of these guys kill themselves when the police show up anyway. So 911 is too late. People will say to me, well, we have school resource officers. Well, you probably don't have them in all the schools. And in the schools where you've got them, they can only protect where they are. So if they're in Mrs. Jones's classroom and the bad guy comes in the classroom, they can protect. But if they're down at the gym 500 feet away dealing with a drug problem or teaching anti-bullying or whatever they're doing down there, by the time they get the notice that there's a shooting going on in the school, which maybe is 20 or 30 seconds, that's pretty fast, but they get the notice, and they take off running it, and if they can go 10 feet per second for a full minute to travel the 600 feet it takes in some of our schools to cross the campus to get to where the shooting is, and then they've got to slow down because you've got to do a tactical approach and conflict with the bad guy. You just don't run into a room where people are shooting. So you stop and say, well, how many shooters are there? Where is he? You talk to the people that are fleeing, and then you engage, or you might decide if there's 2 shooters and you're one safety resource officer, you hold the line, you call for backup. So my concern, if I could just summarize it for you, is the first responders to a killer in your public schools are the staff and the teachers. And I want to know what tools and training you're giving them so that they can quickly stop the killer. They can't wait 20 seconds to stop him, because every 2 seconds they don't stop him, another child dies. And that's my question for you. Is your answer to these kind of public comments going to be on the internet someplace? Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
You want to say something?
Okay.
I really do. I might too. Let him go first.
Okay. Dr. Bingley.
I was actually going to make these comments in my superintendent's update at the end, so we're not spending any extra time. But I feel like
You're not
I
going
want
to do
to
it
now.
again?
You know, we did have our writing results come out on our FCAT prompt, and they went down. And the question is, well, our kids, can they write? And I do appreciate Ms. Ryan in the floor today sharing some of our ACT data that do tell a different story. And let me talk a little bit about that. You know, we are one of 3 districts in all of Florida that require every 11th grader to take the ACT. There's a reading component on the ACT, but there's also an English component on the ACT, and the College Board points out that the comparable college course in that component is English composition. Now, the college-ready score on ACT for that element, the college-ready benchmark is 18. The other 2 districts in Florida that give the AC to all of their students, their mean score was 16.2 and 16.5. Brevard's was 19.6. In fact, last year there were only 9 districts in the state whose students outperformed Brevard on that component of the ACT, and they tested 61% of their students. Their free and reduced lunch percentage is just about exactly what ours is collectively. But they left 4 out of 10 of their kids out of the mix. The 57 other districts that performed lower than us tested 66.6% of their students. There are a multitude of other academic competitions and endeavors where our kids display technical writing, creative writing, persuasive writing. You know, the Ying Science Center Challenge, the only way our kids can get into the finals of that is to present their technical writing. And this year we had 40% of the finalists out of 8 districts in Florida, in Central Florida. Quite frankly, the history of the writing FCAT prompt in the years since I've been here, and I suspect before, has been confusion and a debacle. We've shared with the board, it's the one test in the whole continuum. There's no correlation between the results of that and any other test that the kids get measured on in content. Every year, there are some districts that do very well on that test, and they can't do well on anything else. And the reality is we have just simply refused to focus exclusively on the prescriptive approach to this one writing exercise, which is now going away, and we're glad to see it go. Writing is going to be embedded more meaningfully into the new testing element, much like you will see on AP, which, by the way, we've driven AP numbers up every year. Record participation last year, 6,000. It's not just the exclusive few in Brevard, more and more of our kids, and you have to be able to write effectively. And yet their results were the highest we've ever had. So, you know, look, we just have refused to focus exclusively on the prescriptive approach to this one writing exercise, because while that might make us look better as a district, it will shortchange our students. So in the end, you can evaluate our students' writing skills based on this now defunct, you know, one prompt effort, or you can look at what our kids have done on a variety of writing elements to determine their ability to write in ways that make them college and career ready. We have just simply focused on things that we think are more powerful for what they need. And that's what I'll say on that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bingley. Mr. Ziegler?
I was just going to comment and appreciate when the citizens of Brevard County are very concerned about security in the schools, and let them know that we are too, and part of our partnership with the Sheriff's Department is going to provide many opportunities for us to enhance that to the best of our ability.
But we won't be telling them exactly what we do.
Right. Yeah, well, we can't tip the hat on how all that works. We don't want the perpetrators to know that. And of course, also people will need to notice that, and we'll discuss this in our ballot language, the importance of that half-cent sales tax, as that those funds can be used to enhance our security and will be accordingly. So we'll be discussing that later. And just to clarify, because sometimes our listeners get wrong perceptions of things that are said. The tax abatements are the other side of the street there, and honestly, whether or not that has anything to do with generation of tax dollars from property taxes, we don't get our general revenue from property taxes, which is a bit misunderstood. Our general revenue comes from per student funding primarily, so whatever they do over the other side of the street really doesn't impact that per student funding. And I don't know why somebody would say that $1 out of every 10 from the half-cent sales tax, because that's a very specialized pot of money that we got to be very careful that we. I understand it's a perception thing, but I also understand how people listening are going to take that, which is the only reason that I wanted to comment about that. I didn't fully understand that, and I'd like to understand more of that later afterwards if you're still around. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, that moves us to the consent agenda. Dr. Bingley.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. There are 24 items under this category, 15 consent items not previously submitted for information, and 9 consent items with prior information.
Does any board member wish to pull any items?
No, ma'am.
Nope, I'm good. Ooh. Okay, I will entertain a motion to accept the consent items.
To accept.
It was moved by Dr. Krupp, seconded by Dr. Murray. Is there any discussion? Let's vote. Are we taking a break? Nope. Okay. All right. We never get a break anymore. That brings us to the action agenda. Dr. Bingley.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. There is one action item on this evening's agenda. Item G36 is to authorize the superintendent to advertise for a public hearing to approve the changes, deletions, and/or additions to District Policy Series 0000s, 5,000s, I wasn't sure, 2,000s, and 8,000s.
Does the board wish to discuss this item? No, ma'am. What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
The motion was moved by Mr. Ziegler and seconded by Dr. Krupp. Is there any discussion? Let's vote. That brings us to the information agenda. The information agenda includes items for board review, and will be brought back for action at a subsequent meeting. No action will be taken on these items tonight. Dr. Bingley.
There are 8 agenda items on the information category.
Does any member wish to discuss anything on the information agenda?
H38.
H38. And H37 for me. Okay? Okay, we'll do H37 first. Yeah. H37 is the draft ballot language. Are we going to show that up there?
Yeah, Mark, or can you go ahead and bring that up? And while he's doing that, as a reminder, we talked last time about bringing some draft language, and this is in fact marked a draft, but we want to bring it up so that folks in the audience can see it. The board concurred that, not only do we need to, of course, say that it would be a half-cent surtax and what, what those items are or what those things, broad categories are that it will go for. Also, it would be important that we identify that there is a certain number of years, and again, we are still in conversation about how many years that is. We know it's not going to be any more than a decade. It's not going to be any less than 6, but there's still conversation and focus groups that are talking about that, and perhaps even some polling. But the language of the ballot, we wanted to make sure you had a look at it. We've had a lot of focus groups already look at it and make some recommended wordsmithing along the way in an attempt to also, the board agreed that we needed to put in there that there would be a published list of prioritized projects that would be a part of this, as well as the fact that there would be an independent citizen oversight committee. And so we think this ballot language is not only well within the 75 words, but it encompasses those things that we all kind of agreed on. And also our hope is that the language is pretty clear and simple and understandable for anyone coming into the ballot. So I don't see it up on that one. Is it up on?
It's only on this one.
It's on that one? Okay.
I have no idea.
Okay, so with that, I offer this up for consideration for the board to give us some guidance and direction about any confusion in the language or anything you would want to see different.
Ms. Nisi.
I'll start. I just want to say I really like the language. It's simple. There was nothing worse than that last election with about some of these things on there. It took a long time to read and figure out. I think it's simple. It says what it's going to be sent for. The list will be prioritized. There'll be an oversight committee. So I support the language as written.
Mr. Ziegler?
I like it. I'm glad that we're making clear that school security is a high priority with this. I don't know that it's necessary to say beginning 1/1/15. That goes by just the nature of the statute that allows us to do this when it starts and when it ends. And I think it's important that the word critical is in there, and we need to continue to reiterate that this is a very specific use fund. Number of years, of course, that's still up in the air. I hear some people saying, well, let's see how things go, and then if it works well, we'll allow you to put it on the ballot and do it again. But we know for a fact what it's going to generate, what our annual needs are, what possible surplus might exist in a year, and which is probably really nothing. But assuming all we did is covered our base facilities, we know that surplus wouldn't even get us out of our current hole for our deferred projects at this point in time with a 10-year time frame. It's just not going to solve the problem. So the question we have to find out from our community, is it worth going through this exercise again in, say, 4, 5, 6 years. If it, I think we need to solve our problems, I understand there's a strategy in getting this to pass. But I think we convey the message properly as to what the needs are, what it's going to be used for. I think everybody will understand.
Dr. Murray?
I'm good. I wonder if we should.
Oh.
I wonder.
Here, I'll do it. Can we do it?
Because the length of time has been so controversial with folks, if we should say for a period of no more than 10 years. I think that sends a stronger message. I just think it's stronger.
I like that.
I'm good with that.
Concur. I'm good.
One of the things I did want to respond, we had a version with and without the start date, and more of the folks that we talked to seemed to feel it was important to have it in there, even though that we all assume that, well, and some might assume it starts tomorrow when you leave the ballot, and others might not know at all. So all we can say is more people thought it's worth putting in there, and so, but we'll follow kind of the wishes of the board.
Dr. Krupp?
I welcome the language, and I can't wait to vote, because I think that we'll join the ranks of the other 85% or 80+% of the districts in the state of Florida that already have a sales surtax, and we're one of the very, very few districts that has it. We're one of the very few districts that is impacted greatly by federal lands, and the other districts that don't have a surtax are not impacted by federal lands. So we get a double whammy. So I welcome, and I can't wait till November to vote.
Dr. Murray?
I guess I would add to that. I can't wait to vote on this particular thing, but I can't wait to vote for some of the other folks that are on the ballot that have put us into this position. And I think that we should drive that message hard and home, that, everyone knows in our particular delegation that we are getting a double whammy with our federal lands and whatnot, and they have offered us absolutely no relief whatsoever. And I think this county should remember that, and I would hope that our citizens would act accordingly.
Thank you, Dr. Murray.
You go ahead.
Sorry. I like the language. I like the no more than. I would take the beginning 1/115 out if no more than puts you over. But maybe you'll be under. And the title, does it have to be so long?
Only allowed to be 15 words.
And some people only read the title.
Yeah, and I think some of the advice we got is it is pretty important to convey the critical elements that are in the body in the title if you can, and that's why we tried to do that.
Okay. All right. Mr. Ziegler.
And for the valid point of having no more than, would it be a consideration to actually state the ending date?
Oh.
That's pretty emphatic. If we say it'll cease on the, beginning, ending. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah,
I understand. I just a thought.
The only question, and maybe, and we will continue to get people's advice on some of the language. I wonder if no more than, I mean, that opens up some, folks might wonder, well, what is it, what do you mean no more than, how many is it? Is it, and so if you think it helps, we'll continue to talk to people and see what they believe. But I'm sensing you feel that would be a positive addition to the language.
What? The date? The ending
The no
date?
more
No, the no more than.
I just think it sends a stronger message.
Okay, next, H38, Ms. Nisi.
Well, first off, I'm glad to have the 5 hours out of there. When I went back and really researched it, I just have a couple of questions, Mark. The first one is, I did not like that it was up to the site administrator to decide whether a lifeguard was necessary or not. My concern is, I'm very big on consistency, as everyone knows in this district, and I wouldn't want one school to decide a group told them they had to have a lifeguard, and then if they go to a different school, they tell them something else.
Okay.
I guess I want something more clear there, and that's me. I'm just kind of looking at the rest of the board on that one. I also had questions about personal gain by district employees. For instance, I know in one instance where we have a staff member that I think she works for the county during the summer, she gives lessons using one of our pools, and I guess I question, you know, I just want to make sure that's being implemented. I had some questions about that. And the other thing is, in terms of actual cost, obviously the pools are running whether anyone's using them or not, so there's not an additional cost. My question is, are there lights used? Is there an evening at all where they would use lights, or do they use the locker rooms or areas before or after that have to be cleaned by custodians?
Well, I think all of the locker rooms and that are cleaned by custodians. Typically, pools aren't used in the evenings at all. They're just used during the daylight hours. So first thing in the morning, there's some teams that'll come in and practice before school starts, and then they'll be there after school as well as on the weekends.
So who is responsible? The people using would be our swim teams, though. So wouldn't my question has to do with is there any additional custodial need because of the use of the pools?
I don't think we've included that in the cost in the past.
The only reason why I asked that is I noticed for consistency's sake, you did include that as a cost in the other parts of the language in there. So I guess I just wanted a clarification. We're charging if someone rents a room for custodial use, even if, I noticed in the policy it talked about, even if they're not using AC. If there's no additional electrical needs, they're still being charged a minimal fee for extra whatever. So I just wondered, to be consistent, is that being considered as a part of this?
I certainly have not communicated with the schools as far as what they're spending on custodial for those outside parties. I can certainly research that and get back to you with a cost for that if you'd like.
So if I understand, because I know when I called you today, I was like $3 an hour. You've got to be kidding me. But what we're looking at is $13 an hour, $15 an hour, and $20 an hour, if I understand.
That is correct. For the different categories of use.
It was Andy.
And I was just asking, since I'm not a swimming person, I was trying to figure out, is there extra custodial? Do they have to clean the decks? Do they have to, or are the people that renting it responsible for doing that, and so they're taking care of that? I'm just trying to understand. I'm not a swimming person.
I think some of the schools have communicated with those particular pool users and asked them to do certain things to make sure the deck is cleaned and that sort of stuff. So I know that they have communicated with them, and as long as they leave it the same way they left it, I think there hasn't been an issue in the past.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Ziegler.
I don't have any pool questions. Something's been brought to my attention that I was unaware of, and maybe board members are aware of this. It has to do with facility usage of our students, our teams, over the summer, and being charged. And I looked through our policies. I didn't see anything that spoke to seasonal usage by our own teams. So for example, and I understand the difference. To clarify to people, there are times when there are clubs that our students participate on that use our facilities, and I'm not considering that as our students, our teams. But for example, let's say a wrestling team, just our one high school, and they're going to practice during the summer in their wrestling room at their school. I understand that they're being charged for that, and I was unaware. My understanding of the intent of our policy, board members, is that normal use by our students for normal activities, we don't charge them for that usage. If using it during the summer, if a wrestling team uses it during the summer, and this has just been ongoing, it's standard practice for years and years and years and years, then why would we now, and I understand we like to shut down over the summer, but if it's a normal team usage that has always existed, is it true that we're now charging those teams for using our facilities over the summer?
All right, I just want to clarify. We did 2 or 3 years ago, I believe. What we agreed to do is allow all of our own athletic teams. So if it's the Bayside High basketball team or soccer team or whatever, going in to do calisthenics on the inside in the gymnasium, they can use it for a period of up to 3 hours a day, every day, and there's no cost for that as long as the use takes place within that time frame. If they're using it after those 3 hours, then that team would be charged for whatever they're using beyond those 3 hours that have been set aside. And that's something we started about 3 years ago. It's not part of the facility use agreement policy because it's not part of, because that's more of our own teams utilizing facility. It's not part of this policy.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to ask something too, but go ahead.
Okay, I think I'll bring some clarity, and Beth, you can maybe chime in as well. To give you a second to apply your Florida High School Athletic Association hat. I know you didn't expect to wear that tonight, but I think what we're talking about, we did, as we shrunk down the hours of energy utilization and everything else, we did try to make sure that if our teams had conditioning type things that they were doing, that they're allowed to do. I think the reality is, under Florida High School Athletic Association rules, they can't practice and compete as the Bayside wrestling team or whatever. What does happen is sometimes the same coach will run an AAU program or a camp or whatever. Now, they are many of the same kids, but they do have to be treated differently because they can't be the Bayside Bears participating, or that is in violation of Florida High School Athletic Association. And in fact, and we've had conversation up here, no Bayside Bear can face a problem because they can't participate in that summer activity, and there can be others that do. But it does get confusing because sometimes some of our own coaches, working with a lot of our own kids as a part of that process, we do have to bring facility use agreements into that. Am I saying that correctly, Dr. Theddy?
You are correct.
And I understand that, which is why I said, clubs or AAU or that are not our teams, that are not just our kids. That I get all that. But I understand there's some scenarios where, like I said, I was using this as a wrestling team, and they're not competing over the summer, but they practice over the summer, which apparently is standard practice over the years. But now if I clarify, what you're telling me though is that you provide a certain window of opportunity for them to use it without charge.
That's correct.
Because we know, like, if they use it from 6 to 9 in the morning, then there's really no need, that the power consumption is minimal, or in the evening or something of that nature. But if they insist on using it in the heat of the day, you're saying that's a different story.
Yeah, that was done for that basic the basic premise of that was for that purpose alone. We want them to be there early in the morning when utilities are, well, HVAC is a lot cheaper to run early morning than at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And so the incentive was to get them to use the facility early morning, but if they want to use it later in the day, there is an additional charge to those teams that are doing that are school-based teams. Obviously, AAU teams and different teams like that are covered under our use agreement procedures, and they are charged an hourly rate for the use of the facility.
Okay, I need to maybe ask a little more are they aware of that, or are they just choosing to use it in those odd hours? But as long as our teams, just our teams, do have opportunity to use the facilities as they've always in the past, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I can assure you, every year, Dane Theodore's office sends out a memo describing the hours that they can use the facility, where there's no cost. If they choose to use it outside of those hours, the school would have to pay an additional fee for that utility use. But that goes out on an annual basis.
I think that's very reasonable. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Dr. Murray.
I want to change the topic to the lifeguards.
Okay.
I realize coaches typically are lifeguards and all that, but if we have an outside group come in just to rent the pool, I think a lifeguard should be required, because we have no way of knowing. Now if that outside group has a lifeguard member, you know, obviously that counts, but I think not only should we require a lifeguard in these pools, they should have to show the certificate to prove it.
I would love that, because I think that's been a great idea for years, but we've never had that sort of enforcement. If the board wants that, trust me, that will be there.
Yeah, I like that also. It reduces liability.
That's why I was concerned about a site-by-site decision, because then one school may be very strict, another one's not, and that opens up a whole nother set of problems. So I would rather have a standard across the district.
You guys are speaking my language. I love it. I would be very happy to add that language. The issue is, do we want that to be a district employee? Some of those outside entities that lease their facilities to the public require it to be an employee of the district. It could be a student hired by the school to do that on an hourly rate, or it could be by an outside entity who is required to have a lifeguard there and show proof that they have certification and are there. Whichever you would prefer, I'd be happy to put that into the policy.
Madam Chairman? Yes, Dr. Murray.
I personally don't think it needs to be a school board employee as long as it is a certified lifeguard and we have that on record.
Okay. I will add that and bring it back to you with the item in the next meeting.
Okay, so on 4B, speaking of consistency, kind of goes back to what Ms. Nisi said. When you leave it up to the administrator, it's clearly going to be different at every school. So there really won't be any consistency, just so you know.
Yeah, you're right. I agree.
I think we have had some
I
flexibility.
mean, because we have inconsistency right now on actually who pays and who doesn't, right?
We have some issues with getting use agreement forms.
Okay.
I'm not going to say we don't, but generally we get a great amount of use agreement forms. Most of the schools will comply in all of those, but there are certain times where a use agreement form is missed.
If it is a school team that is a school that is doing a fundraiser, summer fundraiser, you know, doing some sort of an activity at the school, like a volleyball camp for kids or whatever, doing it for the school, calling it a fundraiser, who would those checks be made to, the school or some other organization?
Okay, so if it's like the Viera High volleyball team that's run by the school, all of those checks should be written to the school. They'll be handled by the bookkeeper and deposited that way. That would be a district-sponsored fundraiser.
Then it would be a fundraiser. If they weren't being made, they were made to another organization, then we really couldn't call that a fundraiser. Is that correct?
It's not a fundraiser for us. It might be for somebody else.
Got it. Okay, are we done? Okay. What do we have next?
Staff reports.
Staff reports. It's for you.
Yes, there are two staff reports on this evening's agenda. Item I-35 is about the value of the 7-period day. Dr. Beth Theddy, Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, assisted by Mr. Robin Novelli, Director of High School Programs, and Ms. Cindy Van Meter, Associate Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction, will provide the report. And I see Dr. Theddy is taking the lead.
Yes, I will be presenting this evening, and if there are questions I can't answer, then Mr. Novelli and Mrs. Van Meter are here to support. Good evening, Mrs. Henderson, Dr. Bingley, and board members. I'm here tonight to present to you the information that we gained from meeting with our focus group of certified school counselors and administrators regarding the meaningful senior schedules. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Is there a PowerPoint up here? Oh, you're just going to do this?
No,
Okay.
it's on.
I have a hard time reading it, so it's almost useless.
All right. Go ahead.
A hard copy of it?
I do not have a copy for you. I will give you a copy, though.
Okay, because we can't read it from our screens.
Okay, you'll see, it's very quick, it's 6 slides, and I will get you a copy of it. As you will recall, the board requested during the discussion of Mrs. Van Meter's SSMP presentation some time ago the convening of a group of counselors and administrators representative of the district to discuss the issue of senior schedules. This slide, I will admit, will be difficult for you to read, so I'm going to take you through this slide. This slide is simply the representation that was on the committee. As the board requested, we made sure we involved our certified school counselors as well as high school principals, assistant principals, and representatives from block scheduled schools, as well as both middle and high schools. This was so we could determine the perspective of the entire group. In attendance, and I will give you this so you can have it, I'll email it to you as soon as I get back to my computer. In attendance were the following. We had 2 principals, 1 middle and 1 high school, 3 assistant principals, 11 certified school counselors, 2 resource teachers, 2 directors, one of whom just prior to the focus group meeting had been an assistant principal at a block scheduled school, 1 assistant superintendent, and 1 associate superintendent. Ginny Gleason facilitated the meeting, and Cindy Butler, my administrative assistant, and Nancy Gray, a resource teacher in curriculum instruction, recorded the responses and the discussion items. This is simply the agenda we followed. It was very simple. As you can see, it left us ample time for discussion of the issues at hand. The process we followed for this focus group included beginning the meeting with a brief individual overview of Mrs. Van Meter's SSMP presentation. Once that individual review was completed and any questions answered, and there were very few questions about that, I showed the discussion segment of the January 22nd board meeting video where you, as board members, discussed Mrs. Van Meter's presentation. That was at the same time that Mrs. Nisi requested a focus group of the certified school counselors to further discuss the issue of meaningful senior schedules. In addition, Dr. Krupp requested representation from block scheduled schools, and Dr. Murray requested administrative representation on that team. At that point in our focus group meeting, I turned the discussion over to the group to determine the purpose for the meeting based on what they saw in the video of your discussion at our board meeting. Showing the video allowed for the group to determine the purpose of our meeting based on what they saw and heard from each of you, rather than relying on my interpretation of what was being asked. I took a back seat at that time, as did Mr. Novelli and Mrs. Van Meter, while Ginny Gleason, as you all know, expertly facilitated the discussion, beginning with the group's perception of purpose. The only time Mrs. Van Meter, Mr. Novelli, and I contributed to the discussion at all was when a direct question was asked and clarification was required. Other than those few instances, the group carried the discussion. After some discussion of what the group saw in the discussion of the January 21st board meeting, they determined that the overarching purpose was to determine if we can accomplish the same level of excellence in 6 periods per day rather than 7, and how this might impact the success of BPS. To that end, several themes emerged, which you will see on the next 2 slides, which I understand you can't see, but I'll share with you. One of the issues had to do with middle school students, and I believe Mrs. Nisi brought this up at the meeting. Middle school students taking high school credit courses in the middle school, and does that impact their ability to fill a schedule as they head toward their senior year? The team of school counselors and administrators felt after their discussion that those students, with a few exceptions, because there always are a few exceptions, those students do not typically have problems filling senior schedules. They actually take more courses perhaps than other students because they're accessing dual enrollment, they're accessing Florida Virtual School and Brevard Virtual School, and they're taking advantage of every opportunity they had. Another discussion, another theme revolved around exceptional education and exceptional student education and what happens with those students. The discussion regarding the ability of our ESE students to access programs such as CTE and other offerings, including advanced studies and anything else they might want to take through Florida Virtual or Brevard Virtual or dual enrollment, would be impacted if only 6 periods were offered, especially for those students who require either additional remediation or those who benefit from a course in learning strategies. Level 1 and Level 2 FCAT students also emerged as a common theme. These students require additional remediation. As you know, most require intensive reading and some require an intensive math course in addition to the regular curriculum. Those additional requirements put the students who could benefit from fine and performing arts, CTE, physical education, and other elective courses at a disadvantage. We also discussed state mandates, and there was in fact quite a bit of discussion about state mandates, including dual enrollment, including notifying parents of opportunities for virtual opportunities, the online course requirement for graduating seniors. But I wanted to let you know that they discussed those state mandates. We didn't come to any solutions, but they did ask if there was possibility of limiting access to programs, and that was a point of clarification from Mrs. Van Meter that we could not limit access. The final one on this slide is Florida Virtual and Brevard Virtual Instruction Program. There was a great deal of discussion about these two programs, mostly related to who gets the FTE if we send students to Florida Virtual rather than Brevard Virtual. Mrs. Van Meter clarified for the group that both are mandated under statute, but when a student is registering for online coursework, if our BVIP program can provide the course and the teacher, the child is registered through BVIP and the FTE remains with Brevard Public Schools. As you know, an online course is required for graduation, and Heather Price and her team work diligently and tirelessly to make sure they can offer as many courses as they can for our students. Dual enrollment presented another theme that engendered a lot of discussion. It's required in statute, and Mrs. Van Meter's department, as you know, is addressing concerns of schools related to the cost, to the textbooks, scheduling, and offering of these courses on the high school campus. We didn't belabor that point simply because we do offer it, we need to offer it. It's something students access during the terms of their 7-period day. CTE programs was another topic of large discussion, and a lot of the discussion was related to the requirement of 3 sequential courses to get an industry certification, the reading level of the textbooks, which may be out of reach for some students who are struggling, and exposing students to opportunities beyond just regular coursework. Then there was also discussion of the need for CTE courses for all students, regardless of whether they intend to move right into career or if they want to go to college, that we should be providing opportunities or encouraging students to take advantage of opportunities to access CTE programming. The general consensus among the group was that the CTE program in Brevard is robust and provides many opportunities for all of our students, and that with a little tweaking and perhaps meeting the needs of some of our students who struggle, that we'll be able to meet their needs even better. Accelerated programs was another topic of discussion and this discussion centered around options for students to provide them with additional opportunities for acceleration. We have students accessing honors, advanced placement, ACE, dual enrollment, IB, collegiate high school, all the different programs we have in our schools, and it was determined that those also are not typically your students that have difficulty filling a 7-period day as seniors. The students that were truly identified as those potentially having the most difficulty in finding courses their senior year would be those students in the middle. And it was very interesting hearing from our certified school counselors, and they talked about those students may not necessarily have the need for remediation. They may not be the students who are most enthusiastic about accessing your advanced coursework, but they talked about becoming more empowered as counselors to work with those students to provide them with more information about the programs we offer in our schools and to help them determine what their interest levels are in the different areas and then steer them toward course offerings. So I will come back to that in just a minute, but the guidance counselors in our group, certified school counselors, excuse me, felt like if there was a place that could be improved on in guidance, it would be that area. Before I get there, though, the final 2 points of discussion that we had involved SSMP funds and potential loss of programs. The focus group discussed that SSMP truly is not a program any longer. It's simply how we do business. Courses such as AP, ACE, IB, dual enrollment, they're self-supporting, well, except for dual enrollment, they're self-supporting, and those dollars are now being used to fund guidance services professionals and employ other staff. The focus group consensus was that the loss of programs that would occur as a result of moving from 7 to 6 periods would reduce the number of opportunities for students, and it would actually create more problems for students who need access to either higher level courses or remedial coursework. And one of the, and I can't quote it exactly, But one of the participants said that the benefits to students outweighs the problems that could be associated with having 7 periods and the students in the middle. If I can go back to the original purpose as determined by the group, their original purpose, as determined by watching your video, was to determine if we can accomplish the same level of excellence in 6 periods per day rather than 7, and how this would impact the success of BPS. At the end of our meeting, and we met for approximately 2.5, almost 3 hours, at the end of our meeting, it was the consensus of the group that in order to provide students with the skills they need for life after graduation, the benefits to students of a 7-period day outweigh the concerns, and that school counselors should be empowered to work with students in the middle specifically who may experience the most difficulty filling a senior schedule through prescriptive guidance that challenges students to move toward a goal of what life after graduation will look like for them. That was a big focus for them. That was another takeaway that I had, that they're really focusing with the students on life after graduation. If the district were to move toward a 6-period day, many of the programs that meet the needs of our students will be sacrificed. They felt that would impact our eventual success as a district. And that concludes my presentation.
Dr. Murray? You indicated that some of those programs were self-supporting, so we would actually lose funding.
We would if we couldn't access programs like AP and ACE and IB that do provide funds to our schools.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out, that we would actually lose funding.
Mr. Ziegler? Oh, Mrs. Nisi?
First off, that was very informative. Thank you. I got a lot out of that. Just a couple of questions I had as we fill in. One of the issues I had was cost, in terms of we have students possibly taking courses, dual enrollment or FLVS classes that are costing us. And one of the things as I was sitting here listening to that, is there any way that we can start offering some of our dual enrollment courses in our high schools, like the basic ones, you know, the COM 1, the COM 2, or those types of classes that would offer more students the opportunity to get college credit without having to get themselves to the campus?
I believe that's one of the areas that Mrs. Van Meter is working on.
And that's true, Mrs. Nisi. At this time, we do have some schools and some teachers who are looking at that right now, but the certification issues for the teaching through East Florida is really creating a hurdle that we've not yet been able to address.
Okay, the second item I had is, I know you're talking about those kids in the middle, and those are the ones that concern me too, because one of the things I noted is that, you know, the kids that we're going to take that might have been impacted by the 6th period would have less opportunity to take the advanced courses or the CTE classes, but a lot of those kids have not been a good fit for those programs. And I think I heard a little bit of you saying that some of our kids that we had hoped would benefit from the CTE programs are maybe not at a reading level or have other learning challenges. And so did I hear that maybe you're looking at addressing that a little bit more?
I've talked a little bit with Janice Schultz about it, and the part of what the team talked about was not just CTE in general, but CTE in terms of we do have students who will start a sequence of CTE and then they're not a good fit for that one, so they'll change to a different one, and by the end of their time they may have experienced 3 or 4 different CTE avenues, and that is one of the things that we handle through our waiver process if they don't end up having the 3 sequential courses leading to an industry certification. And of course, the CTE program would really love for students to finish an industry certification. It makes them far more marketable, but they recognize the value of students having access, even if they're experiencing a variety of different programs. It may not, the one program may not be a good fit for them, but they may find something as they're going through their schedule through high school.
So could a senior I'm looking at that kid in the middle that you're talking about, if they're trying to fill a schedule, would they be able to take, even though the sequence, they'd only have a chance to take one of those classes, can they do that their senior year to experience that field to see if that's something they're interested in?
Yes, that is something I've spoken with Janice Schultz about, and that is a possibility.
My last question, if I can ask one more, that I still see a need at the high school, those kids in the middle, is the only options for learning strategies class are for our ESE students. But there are so many kids that could benefit from something like that. Does the state not allow a course offering in any form for, you know, they force us to do career things, but a lot of times what a kid needs is 1 period a day to learn how to study for that test, to be able to make those note cards, to be able to interact with others. Is there any possibility of getting something like that back into the school day?
I think that's something we can explore further. I'm not certain right off the top of my head what courses are out there. I know ESE students can only take learning strategies, but there's critical thinking skills and some other things that we can explore.
Because the issue I hear from that group in the middle that we're talking about, if we go back to the old-fashioned bell curve, we're talking about that 66%, is that a struggle for those kids taking 7 classes is that 7 teachers, 7 different assignments. There's no time in the day to stop and have a chance to think about what you've been doing, interact with someone. It's go, 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 go. And if that same kid at the end of the day has a job they're going to or family obligations, that group of kids, I worry about that 7th period is adding an additional burden.
And I understand, and I think the counselors in our meeting understood as well, because they did have discussion about changing their practice with guidance and making sure that they're addressing those needs more specifically. And I know in the back of the room I have Joyce Cochran and Paula Buersi, who work very closely with our counselors. And they were part of that meeting and participated with us, although they provided very little input. It was mostly a discussion with the school-based people. So we heard the message loud and clear, and it's a takeaway for all of us to look into for next year.
Maybe Dr. Krupp's going to ask this. I want to hear what the Block 8 discussion was. I know was it your question?
Yes, that's one of my questions, but let me get to the other questions first. Dr. Thede, in their discussion, did they talk about the virtual school impact? Seeing the major list that we have for summer school registration opening now for virtual school, it's offering a whole gamut of courses in the curriculum. What impact is that going to have on our students when they take not just one virtual school, but say 4 or 5, and then they come to their senior year and say, well, I really don't need anything. I really don't want to take all of this.
I think it's a good question, but what we have found, and this summer will be different, but what we have found historically is those are not typically your students who have a hard time filling courses. They're taking additional courses because there's something offered at the brick and mortar school that they can't take virtually that they want. And if they don't take some of the requirements, economics, some of those other things virtually, they can't take what they want to take at their high school. I know that there are some changes to the virtual world this summer. They're a little bit out of my realm right now, but I do believe that those are typically the students who are a little more successful in their coursework, because it does take a certain kind of student with a major amount of dedication to have the self-discipline to complete a virtual course, one virtual course, let alone 3 or 4, especially during the summer when the challenges of their friends going to the beach are pressing and they're at home working on a virtual course. So that was discussed, but not in terms of summer school. It was discussed more in terms of summer remediation, because we have offered summer remediation through the virtual program for many, many years actually now, and that was more of their discussion.
Okay, and then secondly, do you have a percentage of our high school students that are in the level 1 and level 2 FCAT category?
I did not bring that with me, and we have not gotten the newest results other than grade 3, so I don't have the most recent results for level 1 and level 2 FCAT students. Mrs. Van Meter, do you have? No, I don't want to pull that number out of my head. I don't know. I will get that to you though.
And then I'm wondering how many high schools are offering 0 period right now that also impacts the number of credits that students take. I know, for example, Cocoa Beach has a 0 period. Usually there's a band class that's 0 period or something like that. Do you have any idea how many high schools are offering a 0 period before school actually starts for the general academic student?
I believe less than half. Do you have an exact number? I believe less than half, and the ones that do, you mentioned it, it's band. It's typically students who want to take multiple bands during the day, so they access a 0 period for the career research in 9th grade.
Could I get a report on those high schools and what courses they're offering 0 period?
Yes, absolutely.
And in relationship to the adult education programs for their high school, they do not require the 28 credits, is that correct?
That's correct. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Adult ed mirrors our requirements.
Well, I've been told by other sources that there's some special circumstances now that a student can get a high school diploma through adult ed with less than the 28 credits. Is that incorrect?
I will call on Mrs. Van Meter for that question. Adult ed is in Mrs. Van Meter's department.
There's actually an opportunity for all students to graduate from the state of Florida with as few as 18 credits, Dr. Krupp. So that's in our regular schools in addition to the adult ed program.
I understand that and I know that. Can you tell me how many students take advantage of that in our regular high schools?
I can tell you, I can't give you an exact number, but I can tell you very few.
Do we advertise that to our regular students in the regular high schools, the 16 high schools we have?
We have communicated at the beginning of the year because that's part of the legislation that requires us to do that, but it's not something that we encourage our students to participate in. The 28 credits is what we're shooting for.
And then lastly, Dr. Theddy, on the block scheduled schools, who was on the committee and what discussion took place?
I had Melissa Katakis, who had just left the Astronaut High School as a secondary assistant principal, and we had from Titusville High School, Brandy Felgar, who is the guidance services professional, or the guidance chair, I'm sorry, at Titusville High School. There was not a lot of discussion about block scheduled high schools, except that they have 32 credits that they offer. The discussion was more about the fact that it provides kids with a lot more opportunities for both remediation and for advancement. The people that were on the committee for representing block scheduling did not indicate that they had problems filling schedules. They had the same concerns that the rest of the participants did, that students in the middle would be the ones that they have the most difficulty with.
Well, I'm a strong supporter of block scheduled schools, having been a principal of one, and I do think that it does offer some unique situations for students, and also it has a lot of advantages for math and science programs especially, and band and arts programs. So, okay, thank you.
Dr. Krupp, or Mrs. Henderson, if I could go back to your comment, Dr. Krupp, about the 18 credits. The 18 credit option has been in existence for a long time, and students had to declare that previously as, I believe, freshmen or sophomores. This is the first year that legislation has changed where the 18 credit option takes away some of the requirements, such as an online course. I think it took away the HOPE requirement. And that is not something that fewer electives, yes. That's not something that we went out and advertised. It's new legislation. And we do not have data yet because those withdrawal codes have not been put into the system on who graduated with what, a regular standard diploma with the 26 credits or fewer credits. So I don't have that information yet, but I do know once those codes are inputted, we'll be able to give you information.
Dr. Bingley.
Just maybe a shout out, I suppose, to Dr. Theddy and maybe to everybody up here and to this organization. And Beth, I don't know this, we've had this conversation a little bit. You know, we've mentioned before we're the only district in Florida that has been in the top 5 in graduation for the last 6 years. The only one. And yes, we have 2 more credits, and we are very serious about helping kids make it. Dr. Theddy won't say it publicly, so I'll say it for her. We are certainly a little worried that others might see this new legislation as a means of purposely telling kids, all you need is 18, take it and run, for the purpose of increasing their graduation rate. But it's not what's best for the students we're supposed to serve. Now, we'll meet the compliance and we'll help kids graduate, but we're going to work hard to give them a meaningful experience and help them be successful, because that's how they're going to be ready for college and careers. That's what our responsibility is. So we're going to do what is right for kids to the best of our ability.
Yes, Ms. Nisi?
want to make one final comment that I still feel like maybe is overlooked a little bit, are those kids in the middle. I mean, I go back to the old bell curve of 60%. You know, we talk a lot about our kids at the top and a lot about the efforts we put in at the bottom. But what I heard from this group that I hadn't thought about are those kids in the middle. And that's over half the kids we deal with. And so I would just encourage possible strategic planning looking down the road is what can we do to improve opportunities for those kids. And that's what I feel I hadn't thought about, but until I heard your presentation tonight that I think is very important.
And I think by keeping 0 period, and since they're, our students are required to take those silly online classes, whether they like them or not, many of our students take hope that we should be encouraging them to take it through Brevard Virtual. But the problem with the online classes is that you really, as you alluded to, you have to be a special kind of person to actually take those classes. Even for the one class that you have to take, there are some kids that this just doesn't work out well for. And I know some of those kids. I met some of those kids this year, and it's a sad thing to see that we have to take them out of the classroom and put them online where they're not comfortable, where they'd rather be in the classroom. It really did not do anything. It did not make those kids any more successful. And so those kinds of law changes and legislative requirements are actually hurting kids and not helping kids. Now, on the flip side, some of the virtual stuff, some of my kids, and I'm sure your kid too, is probably taking economics just so that they can have a full class during the year so they don't have to take a semester of one class and a semester of something else so that they can take a full year of something. But, I appreciate your presentation tonight. It's exactly what I thought it would be. I think that, that the 7-period class for students has really provided many opportunities. And I'm all for seeing it stay. But I agree with Mrs. Nisi, we need to make sure we do work on that middle piece.
Just as a point of information, I did invite everybody who participated on the team to be here tonight. I couldn't give them a time for when we would present. I do know there are a few people in the back of the room who were on the team, but Colleen Rockstraw was here earlier tonight, and I know she was not able to stay. But you'll get I will send the presentation to you as soon as I head back to my computer, so you have it, and you'll have the names of the people if you have any further questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yes.
Has any other school, given the 6 of 7 and the staff's concerns, but has any other high school besides the ones that are currently doing it asked to explore block scheduling?
To my knowledge, but okay. Our next staff report is item I-46 on elementary district assessments. Dr. Lynn Spadaccini, Director of Elementary Programs, will present the information. Dr. Spadaccini?
Good evening, Dr. Bingley, Chairperson Henderson, board members, and community. I'm glad to be here tonight to share our findings and our response to those findings. Tonight's report is in direct response to a board-assigned task regarding elementary assessments. And Brevard School's organizational beliefs state that we must revere data that provide feedback to students, inform programmatic and instructional decisions, and support focused intervention efforts. And while that has been an organizational belief and continues to be, we have historically provided assessments at the elementary level, and we don't create them ourselves. Teams of teachers have created those to support teachers with the data that they need to monitor students, as well as to inform their own instruction. The educational landscape, however, has changed significantly with additional federal, state, and district mandates. There's such an increase in accountability, documentation, and expectations for teacher and student performance that we felt it necessary to relook at our district requirements about assessments, and we've done so. Just to start off, I'll share with you some of the assessments that we use. The asterisks you will see are state-mandated assessments that we give. Flickers is the VPK readiness administered to all incoming kindergarten students. FAIR is a progress monitor that we provide. You all can't see this, can you?
No, we can see this.
Oh, good. Okay, you can see it. Okay, great. FAIR is a progress monitoring assessment that we use 3 times through the year. Our KLS is our kindergarten literacy survey. BELLA is our new ELA assessment that we look at reading and language arts within BELLA. Running records is, we do that to assess reading performance. PASI and PSI are used when we have students that are struggling and we're looking for more information. The PASI is a phonemic awareness screening instrument, and the PSI is a phonics screening instrument. We have math assessments, social studies assessments, and science assessments. But we wanted to take a look, and elementary programs continues to embrace a collaborative approach to accountability for student learning. So before making any changes to the assessments, we thought it was important to hear from stakeholders. So we did hear from stakeholders. We created a survey, sent out. Every teacher had the opportunity to respond, and we received many, many responses, well over 500 responses from teachers and administrators. In addition, we had focus groups where staff went out and talked to individual schools, about 18 schools or so, Lewis Carroll, Ocean Breeze, Meadow Lane, different schools where we talk with focus groups of teachers. We wanted to have both a quantitative and a qualitative approach to gathering information, because sometimes a survey doesn't give you the full picture, so we thought it was important to do both. Here are some of the findings. I decided, instead of focusing on just showing you graphs and charts and all that, it was best to just kind of sum up the findings for you and then talk more about what we're going to do about it. And you'll see, you can read right there, excessive time required for administration, grading, data input, instructional time is impacted, tests are often being changed every year, sometimes not received early enough to inform instruction because we're giving them sometimes toward the end of the year. Too many assessments, appropriateness of vocabulary, language doesn't always match instruction, primary grades have a great deal of one-on-one. There were no surprises. We sort of had been hearing this, and we sort of knew that this is what we were going to hear. Nonetheless, we collected the data and analyzed it. We also had, we had some kind of neutral comments and some positive comments as well. Time frames needed adjustment. Too many assessments are given at the same time. And I looked back at December and I thought, oh my goodness, how in the world could the teachers have given all those assessments? So we listened loud and clear on that. Teachers are developing their own assessments and administering their own, and they have to because of our new evaluation system, which is sort of new in the last couple of years. So there may not be such a need for us to provide as many assessments as we have in the past. They wanted longer and more flexible administration windows. They felt that they are professionals and they have the expertise to create their own assessments, and we agree. We actually use them to create our assessments as well. Data do provide valuable information, and we heard that throughout the survey as well and our conversations, and that they support student data within the MTSS process. So these are just some of our general findings through the survey and through our conversations with teachers. We decided that before really reflecting on the results and making decisions, that we needed to think about what is the purpose for assessment. And we came up with provide ongoing systematic standards-based measure of student learning, and we wanted to provide data regarding students' depth of understanding and mastery of standards. And interestingly enough, I asked that question on the survey, and teachers pretty much said the same things, and so did administrators, that they're really to provide progress monitoring, to know the status of our students, and see where they stand with relative to the standards. As a result, we did make some changes to district assessments. I hope you can see the dot cam because I'm going to show you a couple of them, but I'll talk about them as well. We made some deletions. And we made some that were required optional. We'll provide them as options for teachers if they want to use them, but they won't be required. I'm going to jump over to the .cam because that's sort of where I'm going to end this part of it. I wish I could make it small. And jump onto the .cam and show you a little bit about what we've done. There it is. I won't show you all of them, but I will show you a couple just to give you a feel for the assessments, what they look like and this year and what they will look like next year. For example, and I'll start with kindergarten, and that's probably the one where we've made the biggest changes and we've heard the most probably from kindergarten teachers. And this is sort of what our assessments look like this year. And I'm going to zoom out so you can get the full effect of that. Let's kind of zoom in a little much. Okay. You'll see all the assessments there, the flickers, the KLS, and you'll see the KLS 5 times, math, etc. Those were the assessments that we used this year for kindergarten. And we've made changes. And what we've done is we've made running records optional. The August and January mathematics assessments were made optional, so that cut the math assessments from 5 to 3. The October and December science assessments were optional, so we cut those from 3 to 1. We removed the August, December, and March KLS, so we cut from 5 to 2. And then we removed the required October, December, and March social studies assessments. So we've cut them from 4 to 1, and here's what kindergarten will look like next year.
Wow.
Oh, yay, I got applause. Thank you. You're going to notice at the end, over at the very end, you're going to see a bunch of assessments lined up in the April-March area, and you'll see asterisks on all of those. I think you heard at the last board meeting there is a new requirement for end-of-course exams for every course. So you're going to see bunches of assessments at the end of each year for every grade level, every course. But you'll see kindergarten, we've made lots of changes there. That was the most significant. First grade, we also made some significant changes. Can you all see that? Can you all see this? Okay. This is what first grade looked like this year. Okay. We have made running records now optional. We have made the August, September, January math assessments optional. The October, November, March, April science assessments, optional. We replaced the December Bella. We got rid of that and we put an EOC. Of course, the EOC is going to be in there anyway. And we removed the required October, December, and March social studies assessment, cut that from 4 to 1. And this is what first grade looks like.
Wow.
Okay. You're going to see increases as we go up. A lot of this is one-on-one assessment, so we really saw a need to make changes. Along the way, we made them at every grade level, but specifically for the primary grades. Second grade, I'm just going to show you. That's this year. And I won't read everything. I think the picture paints worth 1,000 words. And this is for the upcoming school year. So you see real significant changes at kindergarten first and second. Ms. Henderson, I see you have a question.
No, I have a comment.
Okay.
I actually graded the last Bella last week while I was waiting to go on a field trip. And so I graded the papers for her, but they had to give the one-on-one for the very last question. So I couldn't put the final grade on there because the very last question of that test needs to be done one-on-one. So if you've got 20 kids, you got to do it 20 times. Some of this stuff is really, really time intensive.
The scoring of them and the administration at the primary levels especially are very intensive. And that's why we've made these cuts. With kindergarten, it's very difficult to just give them a paper pencil test. You sort of have to sit with them and assess them.
Right. Right.
Now, third grade, you're going to see a little more. This is this year. We still made some changes, and I'll tell you what they are. Again, we've made running records optional. I don't think I had them listed on there, but they are required. We removed the December Bella. The August, September, and May mathematics assessments were made optional. The January/February science assessment was optional, and we removed the October social studies assessment.
We can't
And this
see
is-
it again.
I'm sorry?
Somebody
I
back
think
there
somebody
needs to
back
get
there
us
needs
turned
to-
on. We can't see it again.
Did I break? I've
No,
been
you
breaking
haven't done any.
technology all day.
No, it's not you.
Okay, are we good? Okay.
No,
No?
it was showing on our screen. Yeah, there it is.
There we can see you. That works.
There you go.
Oh, we got it? All right. So that's this year for third grade. And then next year, okay, you're going to see 2 science assessments. And you'll remember that science in 5th grade, they assess 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade science. So we really felt it was important to keep the science in there. And most of these are multiple choice at 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th.
Right.
So they're easier to administer and easy to score because you scan them. 4th grade, we still made some changes. There's 4th grade this year. And this is what it will look like next year. Okay. Running records were made optional. We removed Abella. We made some math assessments optional. And we made 1 science assessment optional. And we removed all of the writing assessments because we don't have to do FCAT writes anymore. 5th grade, here's what it looked like this year. And here's what it'll look like next year. Again, we removed the December Bella. The August, September, and May mathematics assessments are optional, and we made one of the science assessments optional. And then finally, 6th grade. This was this year. And then next year, it looks like that. Again, running records, we removed the December Bella, we made some math assessments optional, and we made one of the science assessments optional.
Wow, that's impressive. Now, are teachers allowed to give, or may they want to give, assessments to some kids who are struggling, and some of them, they may not, they know they don't need that assessment. So instead of having to do 20, they might only have to do 5 because we know everybody else has that.
The ones
That
on these,
flexibility
we
is
want
there?
these to be required. We want them to do these. You know, there's a need for us to do that for the MTSS process. We have to have ways to measure and compare students across the district, but we do have optional assessments. Some of the ones I mentioned earlier, PASI, PSI, there are teachers that are choosing to give their entire class those assessments. It really is for a struggling student. It's really more of a diagnostic to see where they may be falling down in reading. You know, is it phonemic awareness? Is it phonics? But they're such great screeners that a lot of teachers give them to every student. So they do have some options around those as well.
Great. Well, this is, I call this a success, although now I have to go back and change my spreadsheet.
Yes, you'll have some big changes to yours, but I'll help you make that change if you would like me to.
I'm just kidding. Dr. Murray.
I just want to personally thank you for this. It's right on point as to what I was talking about at the last board meeting, that we need to be constantly looking at our efficiencies or lack thereof and revisiting these types of things. I also like what you've done very much. You put a lot of hard work into this, and you've shown the board what we can do. And I also like very much that it is more teacher-driven in the classroom rather than driven
top down
from the bureaucracy, so to speak, because the teachers know what is best for their students, and we need to, at the district level, I think, step back and let them do their job whenever we can. So I think you've done an excellent job, and I commend you for that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Ms. Nisi.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on that. Outstanding. I'm glad to see that. How soon will teachers get the good news?
You know,
tonight.
I tentatively, some of them will get it tonight because some of them are watching. We can share it as soon as possible. I have a follow-up with some principals that I sent it out to kind of look at before to see if they saw any problems with it or any issues. And I've asked them if they will meet with me in early June to just kind of look through it. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything, but this is, it says draft on most of my copies, but this is probably what we're going to go forward with. But I really want to talk with them. I've also said if you want to share it with a couple teachers to get, have them look at it, you can. But tomorrow, I mean, I just really want to have one more group of people take eyes on it and take a good look at it, and then it can be posted, shared. We wanted to get it to assistant principals early. Of course, our time is ticking. They've got 2 more days, but we really wanted them to be able to plan. So I gave them a heads up so they know there are going to be significant changes. They just don't know what it looks like yet.
We had a lot of discussion at our last board meeting about EOCs. So given what you've laid out here, are we where we need to be at the elementary to meet the EOC requirement?
Not quite. For next year, we're pretty close. We have so few at the elementary level. I really am real tight about what courses I let the elementary folks, access. And so for next year, we're going to be in good shape because I think we've got most of them based on this. The following year, with the new requirements and it being tied to evaluation, I don't know all the rules around that. So I don't know that for sure. But for next year, the requirement for the 14-15 school year is to have them in place. And so we've got them in place. Whether they're adequate to meet the requirements of the 15-16 is somebody, someone else would need to give that answer. I don't know that.
So the courses, Mrs. Van Meter, that you were referencing that we needed 1,600 or that sort of thing?
1,300.
Or 1,300. You weren't counting elementaries then on those. That was secondary or middle school?
No.
There were still a few elementary that would have to be created. I think we were talking the PE, the art, the music. We still had those to work through.
And there's some obscure courses that we've got to look at as well. Okay.
Dr. Krupp.
Thank you. Dr. Spadaccini, you deserve a shout out. And I'm serious. You just don't realize what effect this is going to have on our teachers and their morale and their time management, especially at the elementary level where every minute counts. I would say as soon as Michelle Irwin can get this posted on our website, there's going to be a hallelujah singing your
And you know what, Dr. Krupp, I can send it straight out to principals and assistant principals tomorrow to share with teachers. I'm happy to do that.
It's wonderful news, and also for our community. The parents that have elementary school-age children are just going to have such a relief. You just don't realize it. You deserve a shout out.
Well, it was the input of everyone that helped us make these decisions. So, I just kind of sat with the data and we made some decisions, and they weren't hard decisions. We know our teachers do a good job, and we trust them to do the job that they need to do. So, but thank you. Hey, I'll take the shout out anytime.
Wait, we have more. Dr. Murray.
Yeah, I want to make a comment on the end-of-course exams, though. People seem to be unhappy about that, and I can't understand that because it's a final exam. So, all of our high school teachers are required for every subject. They already administer a final exam.
I know.
So the end of course will just replace that. So I know other districts are well ahead of the process, well ahead of us. I'm learning that throughout Central Florida. So I just, we need to get in gear.
Dr. Spadaccini, thank you again.
Oh, hey.
It was exactly what I was looking for.
If I come up here and get kudos, I'll come up here every single meeting. You just let me know. Thank you all so much. I appreciate your attention.
And they had already taken away, made Bella, the last Bella this year, optional. So I think that a lot of our elementary teachers knew that something was on the way because they saw that coming. Although there were many that were still doing it. So, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, there are no additional public presentations. Are there any board member reports? Ms. Nisi.
I'm just going to say what I'm sure others are going to say, outstanding graduations this year. My favorite part of every graduation are these speeches, because they're not the canned speech that you would expect. maybe at other schools. I mean, these students have just a wealth of information and ideas and excitement to share. And I always, even though I come away very tired after all the graduations, I come away excited and inspired. So I just hope all of you felt the same way I did this past weekend. It was an outstanding weekend.
Mr. Ziegler.
Yes, yeah, graduation, great time, very exciting. Wish we had it organized in a manner that we can do more of them. I did 4, but I would do as many as I can get to if they were not staggered on top of each other. Also wish they weren't staggered within our district so that we could attend all the schools that we represent. But, of course, we have limited time to do that. What I want to report on, one report and one foreseeing request. Want to let you all know that I got a phone call out of the blue a little over a week and a half ago from our new county manager, asking me if I'd come in and speak with him and his head of HR and of insurance. I guess they caught wind that I've been hot and heavy on my concerns about insurance and how we can help ourselves, help our employees. So they wanted to know what was on my mind. And it was a very interesting conversation. And one of the things, and some of what I had been interested in, they took some merit in, but they said what we really need, though, is we need some more scale of economy to be able to accomplish some more things. And so I asked, why are we not collaborating more between us and the county? And they said it was philosophical differences between staff. Well, that's nice. But I think we need to get past that, and we need to start talking to them. They have a very similar, they cover the county, they got similar concerns, they're self-insured. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be having some conversations on an ongoing basis of how we can team up and accomplish more by scale of economy. So they're interested in doing that, and I would hope that we're interested in doing that, because we're both in a difficult situation in the upcoming years as being able to afford to fund our benefits for our employees, and we both want to do more for our employees, and we all both want to spend less. So if we can, Dr. Bingley, if you can have a conversation, see what we can do to see what those philosophical differences are and see if we can overcome them. They've explained some to me. I won't get into them here. I tend to lean with some of their thoughts, but although I've got a lot of opinions, I'm not the expert. So let's see if we can't put some experts onto that. The other thing is we have, I was debating on whether to bring this up or not, but there's going to be a ballot item in November about legalization, if you know what I'm referring to. And it was brought to my attention that this is going to create some problems in many, many corporate environments, and very much so in the government arenas, including ours, in the fact that the legalization of medical marijuana is going to have some conflicts with some federal laws and possibly some even existing state laws. I don't want any employee to get in a gotcha if that passes, and we hear it may. I would like, if we could, for staff to review any policies relevant to those to drugs, and I don't know where this is going to fall. I'm not an expert on any of this, but I would like to make sure that we have clarity for our employees as to what this is going to mean in our world. So in case we have to educate them on do's and don'ts, whether any policies, students too, absolutely, absolutely, students too. Let's get ahead of this so that when it happens, we don't have staff, employees, students getting into a gotcha and getting in trouble because of confusion on what's going to happen. And I'm not sure what laws they're referring to, but we're governed by some things, I think, even at a federal level, Department of Education, relevant to that. But anyways, can we review that from top to bottom on how it's going to impact us and what we might need to do, if anything? We may be covered, but let's get a handle on that. And it may just be a matter of conveying to employees how they need to act and behave to make sure that they don't have any misperceptions about what might pass. Anyway, I just think we need to be a little proactive. Typically, we're reactive on policy, but let's be proactive and make sure no employees or students wind up getting in trouble due to what may transpire in November.
Thank you, Mr. Ziegler. Dr. Murray?
Yes, just to piggyback and congratulate all of our graduates. But on the insurance note, to change the topic quickly, Dr. Bingley, you and I had some discussion earlier today about going with the Central Florida Coalition on some other matters in a cooperative way. And once again, I'm going to say this until I turn blue in the face. I do not understand why we are not exploring that from an insurance standpoint. We have our own network in terms of all the school districts across the Central Florida. And, you know, the university system has a state insurance system. And I've been saying this for 8 years. And no one will pick up that ball at the right level. And again, it's right in line with what Mr. Ziegler is talking about, only on a larger scale. And I'm tired of people at our district level telling me, oh, that will never work, when it hasn't even been truly explored. And it is breaking us. It needs to be done. And that's all I'm going to say. Sorry for the rant.
Dr. Krupp.
I, too, enjoyed the graduations at Space Coast and Titusville and Astronaut, and I was just asking Dr. Bingley about how many students we put out into the workforce and into public, or into the society that we now embrace, and he said around 4,800 to 5,000 students. So those kids are all, young adults are all looking for jobs in one manner, shape, or another. Even the military is considered a job. So, you know, hopefully employers out there can listen and say, hey, let's give our new graduate a job. Fun thing I went to was Atlantis Elementary at their closeout last week. Invited me and a few others to their Jungle Book musical. Now, this is at the elementary level, and here are kids, kindergarten all the way up to the 6th grade, and parents made all of these outfits for them, Jungle Books, kids dressed up like lions and tigers and elephants and monkeys. And oh my, the monkeys were great. But the musical was tremendous, and for an entire school to get involved in this, I mean, our communities just, they get the most bang for their buck, for their tax dollars. It was just enthralling to attend this particular musical and see it at the level that they presented. It bordered on professional. And we're talking about 6-year-old kids, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old kids. It was just phenomenal. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I wanted to give a shout out to Atlantis Elementary and their staff and community for putting on that musical.
Thank you, Dr. Krupp. I want to say that I also enjoyed the graduations, but I got to tell you what just brings tears to your eyes, and it's just heartwarming, is the compassion that all of our students have for our special needs students. I have got to tell you, when you watch a girl who's in a wheelchair actually make it across the stage in a walker, doing it all on her own, and the entire place, the students, the band, everybody is cheering her on. I mean, okay. The cameramen were laughing at me as I was like wiping tears because it was just such a heartwarming moment. So that's my favorite part of all of these graduations. In addition, Jason, do you have the video? Hello? Does he? It's just a short. Okay, it's 2 minutes. But I'll talk over it so you won't have to hear me later. How's that?
Right here.
And can we see it? Okay. This is our trip to the Canaveral Seashore with Endeavor Elementary. It was their 2nd grade class. They make 5 trips to the Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge throughout the year, the 1st and 2nd graders. And they collaborate with Ranger Nancy of the Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge. And they've been doing that for the past 10 to 12 years. They use the refuge as a classroom to study habitats and the environment, as well as energy, sunlight, wind, and water. On this particular day, as you can see in the video, they are experiencing what happens during a hurricane. And it's a demonstration of erosion and what they need to do to protect populated areas. This trip follows all of our standards, and yet some of these kids have never been to the beach. And it's always a great opportunity to go out there with them. Here they are beating the hurricane, the Rangers beating the hurricane, and seeing what's left of what they have created. That's exactly what they all did on the way home. And now do you have the other two pictures for me? So, as fate would have it, I had the opportunity to ride on one of our school buses. And this school bus, when I walked in, oh, this is the roof. This is the emergency exit. Roof, whatever. That's the emergency exit, which actually leaks. And the next picture shows the water. You don't see it on the seats, but on the floor. So as we walked into the bus, there was a puddle on the floor, and it was on the seats. And I said, wow, what's this from? Well, as luck would have it, I was on a 19-year-old bus that we purchased in 1995 for $38,000. It's still running. It has over 206,000 miles on it. To replace it would cost us $113,000. Just a special note to our audience, it is not the oldest in the fleet. The average age of the entire fleet is 10.7 years, and they run about 100 miles a day, or roughly 18,000 miles per year. Last year they drove 6.6 million miles. So we use those buses a lot. And I actually was very glad to be on a leaky bus, because it was an opportunity for me to show you that we need buses. And I was actually very thrilled about that. It's kind of exciting. So I wanted to take this opportunity to let Mr. Creech, I'm rooting for you, go half cent. May we get that and be able to replace some of our fleet. Dr. Bingley.
For me? Well, as I said, I was going to talk about achievement and character. And I've already talked about achievement. Our kids, scientists and technical individuals, judging their scientific, technical writing, problem-solving competition where they write scripts, they write stories, best in the state, synthesize information, write persuasively, outperforming global averages. And as I mentioned, a college entrance exam that basically said the average of all of our kids, by the way, 5,000. Just so you know, I told you there were two other districts. I forgot to tell you this. Collectively, they have accounted for about 600 kids. Both districts. We sent 5,000 to see how they would do against the best in the state, and outperformed them by a lot. But I digress. You're right, Ms. Henderson. I say it every year. And I'll say it again. Those same 5,000 kids walked across stages, most of them, the vast majority. And you're right. The biggest cheer in every graduation I've ever been. It wasn't for the quarterback on the football team. It wasn't for the valedictorian. It wasn't for the class president. It was for a peer who had the greatest hill to climb to get across that stage, literally and figuratively. And that's a fact. So you know what? I say to you, we're okay. No, we're better than okay. And I am very proud of what this organization does for the children of this community. And I couldn't be more proud of what we saw in our graduations. I agree with all of you.
Thank you. Is there anything else? Dr. Bingley, could you have Mr. Langdorf bring back, when he changes that policy, could you give us some incurred costs for that? What it might cost each organization to add those lifeguards? Thank you. Is that it?
His cost.
No.
We're not letting him itemize. He just keeps working.
I know. We are adjourned.